Good evening and good morning to all. Thank you for joining today's session. So, the last session we were discussing about the tools that are required in ETL and what all we're gonna cover in the ETL testing training and live project. Okay. So I see a couple of new attendees today. So everything is okay, right? The audio and you can see the screen, right? Everyone. Okay, fine. So today, as per the schedule, today we have to start about the database basics. Okay. Now, let's do it as by an example. Okay. Let's try to do it as an example for 5-10 minutes, and then we'll jump start into the database concepts. Okay. I'll give some data set. Now you have to tell me what you have to answer me the question. I'll be posting it later. Okay. Say suppose I have a data set like this. Okay. Okay. Like this. This is the data set I got. Now tell me how many alphabets are there? How many numbers are there? And how many special characters? So can you post it by the chat, please? How many alphabets, numbers, and special characters are there in this data set I provided? Okay, I got one answer. Others. In this data set, how many alphabets are there? How many numbers are there? And how many are special characteristics? And what's the total count? The fourth one is just give a try. I just want to see. Okay, there are 26 alphabets. No, in the data set I provided, there are 26 alphabets. Here in this data, you got 26 alphabets. Yes, okay. And how many numbers? Mm-hmm. Okay, 26 are there, right? Okay. And how many numbers? And how many special characteristics? 6 are the special characteristic. Okay. So, sorry, 6 are the numbers. Okay. And how many special characteristics? 11. Okay. And what's the total? Okay. 12. Instead of 11, there are 12. Okay. And what's the total? right? Okay. Now what are we doing? Are we finding the count by the question posed, or are we applying any logic here? Have you applied any logic here, or it's just by the question you counted the characteristics? I suppose everyone answered based on the question that is posted, right? What is the other best approach to find this count? The best approach is, you know, yeah, yes, you should, yes, right. Okay, okay, yeah. So, so the best way of answering this is first count the total, okay, and then in general, how many alphabets will be there? Obviously 26, right? Not more than that. And how many numbers? Infinite, right? And how many special characters? So how many special characters will be there? 30, right? Now, just go back to the basics of mathematics. So what is the best way of searching any data set? First, we should start with minimal, then the next, and then the last, right? So first what you do the first you search for the total, right? So you got 44. Of that you found 26 are the alphabets, and then after that search for special characteristics, which you found as, how many are there? 12, right? Right? So what's the total? 26 plus 12 is 38. So rest will be obviously numbers. So you need not for search. You need not search for all the numbers, right? The problem here is our mind already knows that these are the numbers. But what if a system is there? What system will do? It will take one and search whether one is present here or not. Then two, then three, then four, then so on, right? From human point, it's very easy to find out whether this is a number or not. But from system point, it will, or from the computer's point, it will search like that, right? So now understand this. Understanding this basic thing is what helps in database design. Okay. So how do you design this particular data set in database as a database? Let's try it in an Excel sheet way. Okay. Now this is what the data is. Now try to enter this data into an Excel sheet. How will you enter? How shall you? How do you keep this data into an Excel sheet, so that you can easily find what is the count of alphabet, what is the count of numbers, and what is the count of special characteristics? Do you want to give it a try? Not just copy paste. Okay. I want to see, I will copy paste. Okay. I'll copy paste here. Okay. As you say. But now, can I know what is the what is a special characteristic? What is a number? What is the count of alphabets? Will I know? If you want, I can unmute you guys also. No worries. Raise your hands. You can. What do you say? Tell the solution for this. You got the question. What I want to ask? I mean, what am I asking? Okay. All right. I'll give the solution for this. See, if this is the data set, I would like to have it in a manner where I can easily find out what sort of what is the data set that I'm having. So I'll have it as serial number, then character, then type, right? So now here 1A will be my alphabet, and then C will be alphabet, 8 will be number, sorry, 8 will be number, percentile will be special character. So what am I doing? I am segregate or grouping or giving some type of uniqueness to the each character. So what is the uniqueness? A will be an alphabet, 8 will be number, and percentile will be special characters. Right? So what am I doing? I am pulling all this data to a format where I can easily understand. Like, right? So now if I want to see the number of alphabets, what I will do? I can easily filter on the alphabet column and see how many are there. So this is my count. So I should do for the like this for all the data that is available. Got the point? Right? So the same, this the same way how we are copying it to an Excel, we shall do the same in the database also. Okay, it can be any database. It can be an Oracle database or SQL server. The concept or the basic way of copying the data is same. You understood the point? Any confusion? Okay. All right. Now, looking at this, right? What did you understand? This is called as a table in terms of database. Okay. So this is a table. This entire set is called as table. Okay. In that, these are called as columns. And the data that is inserted is called as rows. Now, if you see, there is very uniqueness here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So what am I doing here? This particular column is unique. So you will have a definition for column which will define uniqueness. Okay. And the data that is getting added here, you are adding sequentially, right? So that's called as sequence. Okay. So this is just an example. While discussing the database concepts, right, we will in depth define each and every database concept definition. Okay, but through this example, just wanted to show you how does a table look like, what is a column, what is a row, how the uniqueness is defined, what's the sequence, so on and so forth. Okay, all right. Now, any questions so far? Okay. Now, from ETL perspective, how does this knowledge of database concepts will help? As I said, we have both white box testing and black box testing in ETL testing, right? So as part of white box testing, where you will be testing the code, okay, written, that is written, right? Now what will be the code written in ETL? It will see whether the columns in source, it can be table or flat file, are correctly or mapped exactly or correctly mapped to the target column, right? It can be again table or flat file. Okay, so if I have to say this particular table, let's give a table to name to this. Okay, table 1. Okay, so this is my source, say suppose, but in my target I have serial number and then type count. Okay, so type here is this particular value, whether it's an alphabet or a number or a special character, and the count of it. So serial number 1, 2 and 3. Type is alphabet, number and then special character. Count, as we said, is 26. Number is this is 12 and this is 8. Sorry, 6. Okay, so this is how I got the target table, say suppose. Now, as part of testing, this is my source and the data into this should be copied into the target table in this format. So what will I be doing as part of code validation? I need to verify whether this particular value alphabet is the same here also, right? So how do I validate? I will have to go and see the data in this particular column and see whether what is the unique, say alphabet is repeating here, right? But whereas here it is very unique, right? So I have to make sure the data in this particular column, unique data, is being copied into target or not, right? So for that, I should understand what is this particular column all about in this table, okay? And how do I find the unique data in this particular column rows? And then define that uniqueness here. If you see, both the column names are same here, type and type. But the data that is coming here is duplicated, whereas here it's unique. Understand? So as part of your white box testing, you have to understand what this database design, what is the source database design is all about, and what is how the target table is defined. So unless and until you understand the design, you cannot write your SQL queries also, right? Or whatever it is, right? So that's the reason it's very imperative or very much required to understand the database concepts also. Okay. Any questions so far? Okay. So there's a question here. So if the data set is huge, one second please. If the data set is huge, how will I validate the data? That's a good question actually. See, if you have a lot of data set, right? Here in this example, I just got 44 rows. But in real time, if I have, okay, okay, Shweta will answer the question later, okay? So the question here is, how will I validate if my source has millions of records, right? So that's where the concepts of database will help you also. See, say suppose I have alphabets, this data set has alphabets, 1 lakh, okay, and special characteristics as 2.5 lakhs, and numbers as 75 lakhs, right? In that case, my way of validating the data from source and target will become very tedious, and it's very time taking process. So what is solution for it? You know that alphabets will be of 26 types only, A, B, C, D, so on and so forth, right? In that, generally, the alphabets from A to E, the vowels will be uh, generally more, whereas in consonants you will have again some set of consonants which are frequently used. X, Y, Z, or to give you a simple example, names will be generally of starting with consonants itself, or sorry, with vowels, whereas consonants you will have small lesser names, and even in consonants names with XYZ will be less, right? So find out such kind of data sets, okay, and write your query such that you will get minimal number of records. So in this case, find out the names which are starting with X, Y, and Z. So you will get minimal number of records, and that you will that filter on those, count those, and then validate the same in the target, right? So how are we understanding this? You are coming to a conclusion by seeing the data set that is present in the table. Same way, there is a concept called as partitions and indexing in a respective table. So use that's the database design. When there's a large data set, usually the data will be partitioned. Okay. So need not worry about these concepts now. While we discuss about the database concepts, I'll let you know in detail. So if you know how a partition is used and what is the data that is going, it's just like that, the same as in your textbook. If you see a textbook, right, you will have indexing and the page numbering. Have you ever wondered what's the use of it? The use of it is by seeing at the lesson name or the name or the index name, you will know where this exact chapter is, and by the prior page, you will know what goes into it, right? Similarly, in database also, you will have partition defined or index defined on the column, which is having data, which uniquely defines the data, right? So if you take the textbook, say suppose it's a uh, physics textbook. So one one chapter will discuss on um, sounds, and the other chapter will discuss on the energy forms. So now you are understanding both are physics subjects itself. But if you see the names, you will understand, hey, this particular lesson is all about sound, and this particular lesson is all about energy. The same even in database also, you should find out a column which uniquely defines this data. So in this example, type is the column which will uniquely define the data set, right? So the partition will be created on this, and they will have a name P1 or some name, partition name P1, which will cater only for alphabets, okay, and P2 which will only cater for special characteristics, and P3 for numeric numbers. Okay. Now, if you have to search the data, earlier you were searching the entire data set. Now you know that I have alphabets, the data is uniquely defined by these three. Now I will directly go into partition. If I want to search for a special characteristic, I will directly go into partition P2 and search. So instead of having 1 lakh, 2.5 lakhs, and 7.5 lakh, these much count. Instead of searching in the large set, you are just confining yourself to the subset, right? So your search techniques will be reduced, right? Even your filtering criteria is reduced. So that's how then the usage of partition will help you in filtering the entire data set and testing with the count as well as the data. Okay. So that's one technique of doing. The other technique of doing is you should find out some unique unique data set that is coming into the table, which we will let you know during the live project. So you need not worry. So now the simple solution is find out the partition, and instead of searching the entire set, give the partition name and your query will search in that subset. Okay. That's one solution. All right. There's another question. What is a sequence? Okay. Sequence is nothing but if you have to uniquely define this particular data set, right? This column is not needed. But in order to maintain the Unix, you are adding another column and you are defining how the data next row should be inserted in order to maintain uniqueness. That's called as a sequence. Okay. Okay. All right. Any other questions, please? Okay. Now there was a question on basic, what is black box testing and what is white box testing? Okay, black box testing is the functional testing which we do, which means whatever is the requirement of the client, whether if we are testing it from the functional perspective, that is your black box testing, which means I have this source table, I have a target table. Okay, and my data should be copied from source to target. So you are not worried how your tool is how your tool is scattering or how your tool is making sure the data is copied from source to target. But your worry is only whether the data is copied from source to target correctly or not. So if you are validating that, that's your functional or black box testing. Okay. Whereas if you have to see the logic written in the tool in order to copy from source to target, that is your white box test. Okay, all right, that's on a high level. Okay, if you need more information, you can look into the testing concepts. Okay, all right, any other questions, team? Okay, I don't see any other questions. Team, do you have any other questions? Okay, so what all will be covered as part of database concepts? Okay, so as part of database concepts, we will let you know how a table is designed from the requirement. Based on the requirement, how the table is defined. What is a database? What is a table? What are columns? What are rows? How do you define uniquely the column? So primary key, foreign key, unique key. Okay, and then what are sequences? What is index? What is a partition? And the type of partitions we have, partitions and types. What is a stored procedure? Okay, and the types of stored procedures. And then you have functions. Okay, as and when we discuss all these concepts, right, we will try to align it to the ETL. How will they help in doing the ETL testing? But instead of also while discussing the ETL concepts, right, we will again come back to these concepts and we'll let you know in detail again. Okay, so this is what you can accept from the database concepts. Okay, now the simple one is RDBMS. We will touch upon RDBMS. What's the need of an RDBMS system? Okay, so that this is what you can expect from this database concept session. Okay, any other questions, please? Okay, how is it different to the data warehouse design? Okay, see, the thumb rule is database and data warehouse are database itself. A data warehouse is also a database, but the design or how the data is stored in each of these is different. Okay, so a data warehouse is what do you say, defined using the database design itself. In the sense, you will have table, columns, rows, primary key, foreign key, so on, partitions, stored procedures, functions, etc. Even in data warehouse, but the way you see the data will be different. A simple example, as we discussed here. Here my database design is like this, whereas in Target it's like this. But what am I doing here? I'm using this same data set, that the rows that are present here, but I'm seeing it in a different way here in the target, right? So that's the only difference in a database and a data warehouse. Rest all, the structure, everything is the same. This we call it as schema. Okay? Hope it answered your question. Mhm. So what is a dimension and fact? Okay. I would not like to confuse others, but just for your information, a dimension and fact is a data warehouse concept which will define the type of table. Okay. I would not like to confuse others, but the type of table, right, or the type of data that goes into the table will define whether it's a dimension or fact. So just for your information, dimension is something which uniquely defines uh, that particular requirement. Say suppose if you have to define any person, what is the unique data set you have? The gender, okay, the city of birth or place of birth, right, and then the unique record. What is the unique record? Date of birth. And others is like first name, last name. So these are unique characteristics of the person, right, which will not change. So a table that holds this information is called as a dimension table. Okay, got it? Whereas for a given person, what can be other attributes like education qualification, education, place of residence, job, salary, and married or not, right? Uh, kids. So these are all the attributes of that particular person which keep on changing, which you can add, right? Which keeps on changing. So the table which holds this type of information is called as a fact table. Okay, so that's the simple way of telling. So if you take any requirement, you will have few fixed attributes which will not change by time. Okay, so those are called as dimension tables, and the tables which hold the information which can be changing and which will be what to say, time bound to change. So that's called as a fact table. Okay, all right. Any other questions, please? No other questions? Okay, this is another question. How do we validate this schema? Okay, that's the most important and trickiest part in doing the entire ETL validations. Okay, so unless and until you know the requirement and you know how the database has been defined or data warehouse has been defined on top of this requirement, we cannot understand how to validate the schema. Simple way of telling is, see, we have defined the source table structure in this way, where it will hold all the list of characteristics and the types. But whereas in my target, I have said I want just the unique type and the count of the characteristics in my table, right? So how am I designing my database or tables here? I am designing based on the requirement. And how the data is coming into this? By grouping or by counting or based on the type, and that is being copied here. So unless and until I understand what the requirement is all about, I cannot validate the schema, right? So say suppose if it is a straight copy from source to target, the same data has to be copied into target. Okay. In this case, the source table structure and the target table structure is same. So it's very easy to validate. So I'll see whether serial number is there, serial number column is present or not. Character column is there, here it is present or not. Type, so on and so forth. What is it happening? If it's a straight copy, I need not worry to, what do you say? I need not apply any logics here to validate the schema. But whereas here, you will have to go as by the requirement. Okay. So requirement is the key for understanding the schema or the table structures. Okay. Any other questions, please? Okay. There's another question. Okay. Sunit is asking, these requirements are in BRD or SRS? Yes. So these requirements will be in the BRD or SRS. But from ETL perspective, right, you will have something called as, sorry, mapping document. Okay. In the mapping document, they will tell you what is my source table and how is it looking like, what are the columns in it. Now what is my target table? Simple way of telling is this, like this. What is my target table and what are the columns in it and what's the logic? So I'll create a sample mapping document for you to understand. So I already know my source schema, right? So in my target, the table, column, logic. Okay. So what's my table? Okay. So my table is straight, same as serial number. So here target table is the column name, table name, right? Target table. This serial number is not, it's a direct serial number, whereas type is coming from source again. So what's my source table name? Table 1. Okay. So table 1 dot distinct type. Okay. So that's how the definition will be given for type here. Distinct type. Right? It's correct, right? In this type, what is the distinct values? Alphabet, number and special character. Right? right? So this will be mentioned like this. So table 1 dot distinct type is by data that goes into type column. 1 second please. Whereas the count column in target will be coming again from this particular table, but the definition is it is again coming from table 1 dot count of which columns count? Character, right? Count of character. So that's how your mapping will be defined, and based on that you will have to validate, right? So this is, if you see, you are understanding the requirement by seeing the logic, right? So this is a simple mapping document which will define the target table. Okay, based on that you will have to validate the data. Got it? Sunit, hope it answered your question. Any other questions? This data mapping document which I mentioned, right, it's the simplest one. This is only for one table. But if you see any given project, you will have at least 25 to 30 minimum. That will be the minimum count of tables, right? So you will have to analyze the entire requirement, the relationships between these tables, how are they related, okay? Based on that only, when the tool copies data from source to target, right, it will be based on these links between one table to the other table. Okay, so we need to take utmost care in validating the links, which table should be loaded first, and so on and so forth. Okay, this we will explain in detail in the coming sessions. Okay. Yes, Sunit. So mostly we will refer to SRS and the mapping documents in the ETL testing perspective, right? Unlike the functional testing. See, the advantage of doing functional testing is you know how the front end looks like or how the exact requirement looks like. Here, you'll be given the table definition, and the actual testing starts from whether the target table definition is correct and whether the tables are created as per the mapping document or not. So that's where the actual ETL testing starts. But as I said earlier in my earlier classes, you might be into a black box testing of ETL testing, or you might be into white box. So someone who is very fortunate will be doing both, right? So this training will help you to understand both ETL, both white box testing as well as black box testing. Okay. All right, guys. So that's it for today. Let's join again on from Monday. That would be the actual sessions. So we'll start from database concepts, then data warehouse concepts, then SQL. See, SQL is the key to understand the data. So SQL is the key to retrieve the data. To in order to coordinate or interact with the database system, SQL is much needed. So that will be we will be discussing it on using the Oracle database and then connecting through the SQL developer. Okay, so that's the major chunk of major portion that will be covering in this entire session. So it will take at least 10 days of time for it. Okay, and then after that we'll start with the ETL tool. So that's live project for you. That's the live training. Once that is done, then we'll go into live project. Okay, these two are two different things: the live project and live training. Okay, all right. I don't see any other questions. Yes, so day one class is starting from Monday. We will send you the schedule again so that we will not confuse ourselves. Okay, same time. Just let us know if you want to change the timings again. Okay. All right. Thanks everyone for joining today's session. See you again on Monday. Okay. Good night and good day.